Welcome to the Two Boots Word Vault podcast. In this episode, I have a recording of my friend the poet Hardy Coleman, who reads a poem for his sister at the Seeing Them Home reading on March 16th, 2019.
As just a brief preface, ironically, I'm flying to Texas this Friday to help bury the ashes of my stepmom, or spread the ashes. And I wrote this, long before she died, but when my stepdad died, I wrote it for my sister. She'd been driving through the Wichita Mountains in southeastern Oklahoma. It was early August, and if the Dodge Bolero held together without too many complaints, she just might make it home in time for her old man's funeral. Home? Funny, I'd still call it that. She'd been making good time, but the past hour or so, there'd been swarms of moths or butterflies or bright-colored somethings, and it was as though she'd run into a shootout 40 knots off Iwo Jima, where her father had in the Navy, and they wore, she swore it, dive bombing her car like the battleship Nebraska. She recalled one fight he and Mom had had, and how she'd hid under the bed and sucked her thumb. She'd given up thumb sucking 5 years before. Now the cups and saucers shattered then too, like shells exploding. It was a dry, hot day toward summer's end, so she hadn't bothered replacing the broken ice scraper under the front seat, and ended up using the hardcover copy of Our Bodies Ourselves, which her older sister had sent after the divorce, and she'd never quite gotten around to opening. Daddy hadn't liked the boy she'd married. As it turned out, after 3 years, neither had she. The wings, antennae, and legs were baked and brittle. The sectioned bodies and guts smeared across the glass like Cypress Junction, Texas, hence everyone I meet, everything I do, every place I've tried to live, she said to herself, and wiped the cover of the book on her jeans. Maybe I'll get some reading done on this trip. She chuckled. Yeah, right. It's nothing personal, she said. They gotta get where they're going, and so do I. We just travel at different speeds. She let her foot off the gas, coasting into another blind turn. Maybe I should get out and fly the way they do. But knew it would never work. Different philosophies, different lives, same difference. She migrated far side of the Mason-Dixon 15 years ago and was still lost up there behind her. 4 o'clock yesterday morning when the phone rang. Hadn't heard Mom's voice in 4-5 years. Hadn't ridden on Daddy's back in nearly 30. He'd make her queen for a day and call her his little princess. Take her all the way to Nacogdoches for ice cream and a movie. She had a flat tire. Should have changed the sucker before I left. Not 12 miles further on. Jacked the front end up, rinsed off the lug nuts, and replaced it with a spare, all by her pretty little self. You're a big girl now, he'd said. Such a big girl that Texas, the biggest state south of the tundra, hadn't been big enough to hold the both of them. Between his plans for her future, Christ, the new incarnation of Tammy Wynette, Sabine County rodeo queen, in the future she'd like to read about in magazines. Well, I guess the standoff with the Alamo would serve as a working script. There was a new rattle under the hood, but faint behind the V8's roar, so she chose not to hear it. I reckoned, she reckoned, that him and me would have tore every pine tree, pecan, and cypress out of the ground without quarrels. The whole world had indeed been bigger, but the forests were always thinner, and had grown ever skinnier as she'd grown further apart and quieter and older, crooked like an elm on the northern prairie, like snow without root or direction. She'd stopped in Goodwater for gas and used the complimentary squeegee and dark blue water to scrub the bug's juice. She scrubbed and scrubbed the way Mom had scrubbed the yellow linoleum kitchen floor after Dad had zipped his index finger near in two on a circle saw blade cutting a new door for the spice cupboard. When she moved out on her own, a quarter past girlhood later, that cupboard was still doorless, open to the neighbors in the world. Swinging ahead at 45 miles per hour, she just about failed to notice some farmer cruising onto the blacktop off a gravel road, not even slowing down, barely missed getting slammed by 2 feet tops, hitting the brakes and swerving left to skirt the ditch. Daddy hadn't been so lucky. He'd come home drunk and rear into Davy's Malibu with his red Ford pickup, staggered out like a three-legged hound dog, opened the driver's side door, and peered in at her and Davy, bare-ass naked in the back seat. "Oh, excuse me. Didn't mean to interrupt nothing." So very quietly shut the door and never breathed another word about it. Within 4.3 miles, vision was again obstructed into a mounting level, eye strained, and her neck ached. She considered turning around at a scenic overlook on Big Brownser Peak, almost said "fuck it" right out loud, and shoved the radiator grill back northward, forsaking that soft piney wood drawl embedded in her speech, the thick-bodied smell of grits and fried okra. But she knew that the highway don't go back the way it came. She didn't know this road. The map was old and full of lies and boondocks gossip. She kept going. Up ahead, if there were any memory cells left in her brain at all, was the place where the mountains didn't revolve from mere acts of nature, or was that in the Arbuckles? She sighed. It's been too long. The dragon's teeth, wherever they were, is what they're called. Some humongous serpent from a dream of some even more whopping god had been chewing up the earth when the god awoke. Incisors jagged out the hillsides in long straight rows up ahead, halfway to where she turned 16, and Daddy had handed her the keys to the Ford with a full tank of regular and a genuine shark's tooth necklace on a silver chain. He shelled out a whole day's pay for it in Mary Lynn's novelty shop on Crockett Street. "That's where he yanked out of no ordinary shark. Nuh-uh. This tooth here, it come from the mouth of Jaws himself." Bastard put up one hell of a fight, too. As she began her descent into the acres and miles of pasture stretched below, shifting down to second gear, the wind changed, and all of a sudden, the insects multiplied. So damn many bugs, she cursed, that they might blot out the sun. And for a moment, they did. They and a fat black cloud that, for a moment, chased them all into hiding. And it whipped the wind like, "This is anger, this is pain, this is what it takes to change." And the hot, dry summer became a downpour, and the window was open so that no one, if there was anyone, could see her crying. The wipers finally did their job, and the dust smeared over her line of sight washed away. She could tell, at last, where she was headed. And the clean, cold rain slapped her face, and for a moment, the time it takes lightning to flash, she really missed that son of a bitch. Without stopping, without pausing to look back, she crossed the Red River at Jonesboro, the state line into Texas, for one final, lingering glimpse at childhood. Princess, little butterfly tattooed on your windshield. Thank you.